Hey guys, David Wills here with another episode of TED-IELTS. And today is just a short video because there's something I want to talk about. This time we're going to be looking at the idea of controversial, unlikely, or uncommon answers and whether you can or should give them. In the IELTS writing task 2, you can be asked so many different types of questions, and some students, maybe they wonder, should they be honest in their answer? Should they pick the easiest answer? What if they're worried that their answer might upset the examiner? And these are good questions. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and I'm going to show you an example essay. So first of all, you can basically say what you want. If your opinion is different from the examiner's opinion, that doesn't matter. You're being judged on your English speaking abilities. However, you do have to think carefully what you're going to write about. You have to pick something that you can justify. It is important for task achievement and coherence and cohesion that everything you say is well developed and logical. Therefore, if your answer really is unusual, it's kind of crazy, it may not give a very good answer because you might not be able to develop it into coherent paragraphs. As for worrying about whether or not you will offend or upset the examiner, that's a little unlikely. I kind of have heard that it's happened in the speaking test. I met a person once who spoke really amazing English, and he'd said that he doesn't like cats to an examiner who really loved cats, and I think she gave him a bad score. But I think that's very unlikely, and I wouldn't worry about it too much. Remember that your essays are going to be looked at by more than one person, and so you're not going to basically encounter a really upset examiner who disagrees with your views on crime and punishment or the environment. So I will repeat that again. The important thing with the IELTS writing test is that you're using good English to give an answer that is well developed in paragraphs. It doesn't really matter what you say, to be honest, as long as you answer the question fully and directly. If you're asked about, let's say, pollution, and your answer is, oh, I don't think it's a serious problem, most people are going to disagree with you. The IELTS examiner will probably disagree with you, but that's okay. That's not a big deal, and they're not going to say, oh, this is a terrible essay because I disagree with the ideas. As long as you can express those ideas eloquently. If you can give a list of reasons, and those reasons are well developed and they're joined together in a good sequence, that's fine. So I'm going to show you an example now. This is a sample essay that I wrote for a question in IELTS writing task 2. And in it, I've chosen to give a quite surprising answer. So I'm going to turn you over to my computer now. So here is our question. The internet has dramatically altered our lives over the past few decades. Although some of these changes have been negative, the overall effect of this technology has been positive. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, this seems like the sort of question that everyone is going to agree with. But maybe you don't agree, or maybe you think, gosh, that's a difficult essay to write. If I have to agree with this, there's so many things to say. If I have to say many things, then my writing is not going to be very developed. So perhaps you want to disagree with this statement instead. How can you do that? Well, let's look at my answer here that I have written. Since the introduction of the World Wide Web in 1994, the internet has swept across the world, changing the lives of almost everyone on Earth. So this first question here, I have basically paraphrased the first part of the statement. Then I'm going to state my view and outline my essay. There have been both positive and negative effects, but overall it has mostly been a negative development. This is the surprising part. People are probably going to look at this and say, wow, he thinks the internet has been negative. So this is what I mean by unlikely, uncommon, or controversial viewpoints. Here is the rest of my essay. To begin with, prior to the advent of the internet, humans tended to have very different cultures, and although global travel meant that there was cultural exchange that occurred between different societies, these groups still maintained much of their own identities. So my first point is basically that before the internet came about, people had their own different cultures. However, since the internet grew to affect almost everyone's life, those cultural hallmarks have begun to quickly erode. Thanks to Instagram and Facebook, people now aspire to do the same things and think the same way. So this is my point, which is that nowadays we have fewer differences between the cultures, and we're all becoming more the same. The next sentence, they listen to the same music, watch the same movies, and take the same kinds of photos, is a development and sort of example of the previous sentence. And then the final one, this loss of individual identity is a tragedy for the human race. This sentence here, a lot of people don't put this into their essay, but I really think it's a good idea. It's summarizing the whole paragraph and helps us to move more naturally into the next paragraph. In addition, the internet has provided people with unprecedented access to information. Despite being able to find out almost anything that has been documented by human beings, our species is no more intelligent than it used to be. So here for this paragraph, the second body paragraph, what I'm doing is I'm taking an idea that the internet makes us more intelligent and I'm disagreeing with it. So this is my second point about why the internet is a bad thing, is that it is not making us smarter. In fact, the rise of clickbait and social media has ensured that people simply choose what they want to believe and then find acts to justify their erroneous position. So this sentence here is explaining the sentence before it. You'll see this word clickbait here that my copy of Microsoft Office is trying to correct. This is a common word now. This is correct English, but this is an old piece of software and it doesn't recognize it. Clickbait means headline on the internet, such as on social media or in the news, that makes you want to click it, even though it's a stupid article and it's not worth clicking. The word bait, this means like what you put on your fishing line when you try to catch fish. It's something that the fish wants to eat. So this is bait for clicks. In recent years, we've heard the term fake news, which accurately describes a vast amount of what people read on a daily basis. It seems that prior to the internet, news sources and research resources were generally more reliable. So again, this is my sort of summary of the paragraph. The sentence here, in recent years, this is an example. So altogether, this paragraph is expressing the idea that we can no longer trust what we read. In conclusion, there are undoubtedly major benefits to the internet. It has mostly been a negative contribution to human life across the planet. So I summarize my main idea, which is it has mostly been a negative contribution to human life across the planet. So this essay here that I have written, this answers the question about whether the internet is a positive or negative thing. I think 9 out of 10 IELTS candidates would say it is a positive thing. But I've written this to prove that you don't need to say that. You can either be honest and say you think it's negative, or you could decide that writing that it's negative is the best way to produce this essay. For me, I think this is a really good essay. It's very well developed. It contains some good ideas. A lot of people tend to put too many ideas into their IELTS, essays. But for me, putting one idea into this paragraph and one idea into this paragraph allows me to really create some good development to get a better score for coherence and cohesion. Okay guys, that's enough for me for today. Like I said, this was just a short video. I'm going to try and make a longer one this weekend. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you find out about that next video. Goodbye.